Well. What's going on, everyone? This is Ritchie Thomas, the Soldiers Coach, and hopefully, this is my very first, hopefully streaming, LinkedIn Live joint collaboration with LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. So, once again, my name is Ritchie Thomas, the Soldiers Coach, and this channel, this platform is designed to do one thing and one thing only, to help our brave men and women in the United States Armed Forces mentally transition from a soldier's mindset to a business professional's mindset. And I hope to be a coach, a voice, an advocate, a trainer to help them do just that. So let's jump right in and roll that beautiful bean footage.
That's good.
All right. So once again, everyone, my name is Ritchie Thomas, the Soldiers Coach. So I had the honor, the privilege, if you will, of rocking the Army uniform for 6 years, airborne. But I transitioned out in 2007, probably about 6 months before the Great Recession, COVID of back then. And it was a nightmare. So I kind of fell on my face as a result, and it was a mess, right? So we walked into a Great Recession, which lasted some 2.5 years, and I learned a lot, and I feel like you learn more in your losses than in your wins. So I was able to kind of look back what I did right, what I did wrong, and kind of build a program or a platform how to get better. Not just for me, but I realized sometimes we get exposed to something because you were meant to do something about it. So I realized all my brothers and sisters in the military today, like there are thousands who transition out weekly, monthly, and on an annual basis who are struggling just as I was. And there are five big issues in the military community. So it's unemployment is number one. Mental health is number two, which depression and anxiety, which often lead to suicide. And then, of course, homelessness is number three. If you look at most of the homeless dudes we kind of ignore on the street corner, you probably notice about 1 in 4 may hold up a sign that says, "Veteran, can you help me?" So those are the type of things I want you all to think about. Homelessness as well, right? But also physical injury is number 4. And the 5th is a lack of education. So many people will get out of the military without finishing a degree or an advanced degree, because a lot of times we're just caught up in the work-life schedule, work-life balance. Work-life integration is probably more what it should be. But a lot of people will get out without an advanced degree. So they just end up suffering big time, right? So again, the primary issue though is unemployment. And it took me a long time to really grasp and understand why that is, right? So it basically comes down to this. This is the big open secret, if you will. But the whole point of the military is to prepare for a war or be in a war. So you're either in a combat battlefield or you're preparing for the next combat battlefield. So the military literally is training people to be a soldier. So we're training for the combat battlefield, but we're not trained for the economic battlefield. In America is one big business. Your church that you attend to is a business. The elementary school is a business. The middle school is a business. The community college, the boys and girls club, the little sisters who be selling cookies and get angry at you if you don't buy them. That's a business. Everything in America is a business. But soldiers are trained for combat, and they're not necessarily trained for commerce. So we're kind of unintentionally set up for failure. But the mindset is we're a soldier for life, right? You're in the military for life. Once a soldier, always a soldier. I love my Marines. Those bastards are crazy, but once a Marine, always a Marine is kind of the mindset, which is cool. But what's not cool is we expect to be in the military. We have this military mindset for life. But the reality is you signed a contract. And a contract is, between 2 or more people, but a contract has an end date. So after the end date, it's kind of like, well, you're no longer in the military. So why do you see yourself and you sell yourself and you brand yourself to the marketplace as a soldier? Because soldiers don't get hired, business professionals do. And that was probably the biggest lesson that I learned in my transition out. I was like, damn, why did nobody want to hear about my time in Afghanistan? Why didn't anyone want to hear about my time jumping out of the 29 airplanes, airborne? Why didn't anyone want to hear about my time at basic training or AIT or, on our flight from Bagram, Afghanistan to Kandahar? Like, why didn't anybody want to hear about that? And it took me years and years and years of struggle to finally grasp the fact that it's not that they didn't want to hear it. They just didn't want to hear it on that day. And I realized that people only want to hear about your military war stories 3 days out of the year. Independence Day, Veterans Day, and Memorial Day. They'll go ahead and buy you a beer, pat you on the back. But if you want to exchange war stories, why don't you go down to the VFW? Because I realized that America is actually one big business, right? It's just a collection, a network of businesses. And I was stuck in that mindset of, hey, I was in a war. I'm a war hero. Hire me. Hire me. Help me hire me. I don't give a damn about your business or what y'all do, but just help me hire me. And then I did that in the middle of a recession, which was even worse, right? So it's not that there was kind of collaboration. There were a lack of jobs, but more importantly, there were a hiring freeze. But I didn't even understand economics enough to know what the hiring freeze meant or what that meant to me, and that they couldn't hire me even if they wanted to. And even if they did want to hire me, I didn't know how to sell myself, because I sold myself and I saw myself as a soldier. And soldiers don't get hired. Business professionals do. How do I know this? If you look at every business in America, the reality is you have about 5 or 6 core concepts, right? With departments, you have a business operations center, usually like logistics, finance, IT, HR. You have, a finance department, a marketing department, or sales department, and maybe like your core product development. But those are your 5 or 6, give or take, business departments. There is no department for soldier. There is no department for Air Force. There's no department for Marines at small mom and pop businesses, at mid-sized businesses. There's no department for veterans at a large business. Like, it's very, very rare. I mean, those folks at LinkedIn do an awesome job. Like, they got a veterans department, veterans program, but that is not common for the rest of the world. And it's not that that's a bad thing. It just, you need to be aware of that. So again, as I'm talking to my folks getting ready to transition out of the military, how do you see yourself? Are you presenting yourself? You branding yourself to the marketplace? Your resume, your LinkedIn profile? Please, God, tell me y'all have one, and it's filled out professionally with a professional headshot. But is your brand soldier? Is your brand camouflage? Is your brand combat? Because they don't want to hear it. Because we're in the business of business in this country. In this country, it's commerce, the dollar. Can't speak for the other 200 countries on the world. I haven't lived everywhere. But I know in America, contrary to popular belief, America does not run on Dunkin'. America runs on the dollar. So how are you presenting yourself or positioning yourself to conquer the dollar, to get a piece of the dollar? And a dollar is earned, and you earn like your salary, whatever you bring. Like, you have to understand, you get paid for the value you bring into the marketplace. Let me run that one back. You get paid for the value you bring to a marketplace. That's not a Ritchie Thomas quote. That's a Jim Rohn quote. It's the godfather of professional development. Love that man. It's like John Maxwell of the 60s and the 70s. But you get paid for bringing value to the marketplace, and I didn't know what that meant. I thought I was going to get paid based on the fact that I was in Afghanistan. I had a top secret SCI security clearance. For those of you who have your TSSCI security clearance in your LinkedIn profile, most people don't know what that means. Unless you're specifically targeting, a contract company who's, going to be a government contractor who's going to be, partnering with the United States government. But I remember telling an HR professional I had a TSSCI security clearance, and she was like, baby, what does that mean? And I was like, damn, I do not know how to sell myself to the marketplace. So my brand was soldier. And it wasn't just me. We look around and there are millions. I mean, veterans typically lead the league in unemployment. It's not because of lack of, veterans have a very particular brand. It's hard work, dedication, team player, leadership, loyalty is the big thing, but it's never like business. Our brand is not business. So what they'll do is they'll have these, these veteran recruitment conferences or there's job fairs for veterans. But then the key selling point is we'll teach you how we do business, right? So we'll work with your baseline. We know you're going to work hard, but we'll teach you how we do business. And after hearing that 100 times, 200 times, and perfect, full disclosure here, I'm a slow learner. I have to read books like 3 and 4 times. Seriously. But it took me over and over to hear that before I was like, damn, I think I need to focus on business, right? So when I got out and got laid off after being with AT&T through the Great Recession, I went back to school at Southern Polytechnic State University, which is now Kennesaw State. I'm still pissed. But Southern Poly was a phenomenal school, and they had this whole IT program. So I got my bachelor's in IT, but they were helping me rebrand as an IT business professional. Keyword there, business. And I slowly realized in time that I was in the business of business. You are in the business of business. You are not in the Army. You are not in the Air Force. You are not a Marine. You are not a sailor. You're a business professional, right? Who specializes in military operations. You're a business professional who's in the Marines. You're a business professional who's in the Air Force. So it took me a really long time to grasp the fact that you, me, we, like all of us, are in the business of business. So your brand has to be, how are you showing value to a business? And I simply did not understand that. And I know I'm not alone, because once again, the number one issue in the veteran community is unemployment. So I know that the rest of my brothers and sisters to the left and right, they also don't know business, because we weren't trained for business. We were trained for combat. So there needs to be this huge, huge shift, right, in how we train, our brave men and women in the military before they transition out. So a lot of my frustration, though, was like, hey, we'll send you to, the transition assistance program, which is dope, but we're going to send you 90 days before you get out. And we're just going to put some buzzwords on your resume, and then you send it to a business. Well, the problem with buzzwords on a resume is I didn't know what a business was. So I had buzzwords to try to impact somebody, and I didn't know how to impact that business. I didn't even know what a business was. So it's kind of like having a cheat code, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I couldn't sell myself to business A, B, or C, because I didn't even know what a business was. So again, all my base commanders at Fort Bragg, Fort Hood, you lucky bastard stationed in Italy, what was it, Vicenza? God, how you get stationed in Italy? That's amazing. I wouldn't know that, right? But if you're a base commander with the United States military, how are you helping your men and women? Big part of being in the military is the leadership. And the big reflection of leadership is not what they do while they're under your command, but how are they performing after they transition from under your wing, under your guidance? And if they're falling and they're failing on their faces, well, we got a real big problem. So what is the strategy to change this? And I believe it all starts and ends in the mind, because we have the mindset of soldier for life, which is cool to an extent. But what are we doing to help these guys and gals mentally transition from seeing themselves as a soldier to seeing themselves as a business professional? So if you're watching this right now here on LinkedIn or YouTube, like, what is your mental transition game? Because my whole thing was, I am no longer a soldier. I don't even have that word on my resume or my LinkedIn profile. I don't have soldier or veteran. It's not that I'm embarrassed or ashamed by it, but I realized that it wasn't valued in the marketplace of business. And the only time I would hear from people was, hey, on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, we'll buy you a Bud Light. Bud Light is disgusting, by the way. I'm bougie about a couple things, but beer is number 1, 2, and 3. All right? Bud Light. Jesus. Business 101, marketing is everything, and no one markets harder than Bud Light, okay? But they didn't want to hear the war stories, right? So I had to scrub off military. Again, not that I was embarrassed or ashamed, but I just had to understand in business, the conversation of military never came up. It wasn't about, they were in the business of bottom line. They were not in the business of battle. So how are you scrubbing your resume, scrubbing your LinkedIn profile to see yourself and sell yourself, and more importantly, to brand yourself to the marketplace as a top-notch business professional? And I believe that the best way to kind of mentally transition from a soldier's mindset to a business professional's mindset is to start a business. So if I had this magic wand and you could put me in the room with the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, I would say, hey, there needs to be a new mission, because there's this huge enemy that we're basically ignoring, and the enemy is unemployment. But if there needs to be this mission where the entire goal of the mission is everyone before you transition out of the military, they have a business in their name. So if you can get a business in your name, I think you would change the mindset, because the best way to change someone's mindset is to change their vision. And the best way to change someone's vision is to change their elevation, change the perception of what they see, how they see, and more importantly, how those things see them. So if you can position yourself to be the CEO of you, LLC, and see yourself as the CEO that you really are, your mindset will then begin to change, and your perception of the world will then begin to change. And I got to a point where I started walking into a business, into a building. I don't care if it was the Four Seasons downtown Atlanta. I didn't care if it was at the W, wherever I was at, Phillips Arena, the Georgia Dome. I would walk into that business like I owned it and went, how do I partner with this business owner? How do I partner with Arthur Blank, who owns the Atlanta Falcons? How do I partner with these different businesses from one CEO to the next? So I stopped seeing myself as a soldier and started seeing myself as a business professional. It's kind of like sharpening my mental tools, my toolkit, if you will. So I wanted to see myself and sell myself as a CEO and business owner versus just as this mindset of a soldier who was in Afghanistan, right? Again, military is awesome, it's great, but I was struggling with that mindset. I was like, damn, I thought it was like no higher honor than be in the military, be a hero. But like, I was getting my ass kicked in unemployment. So mentally transitioning is the first, second, and third. And I think the best way to do that for everybody is that, once again, to see themselves as business owners. So how can we establish a business in your name? Is it in landscape? Can you cut hair? Can you cut grass? Can you bake pie? Are you a brick mason? Like, what can we do that you can have a business in your name before you transition out of the military? That's my whole thing. What can you do before you transition out? I think that's just so important, because the mindset of soldiers is always, I'm a soldier. That's awesome. That's amazing. And I'm proud of you. But how do you scrub that off to see yourself as a business professional, right? So what type of technical skill sets do you need to survive, but also to thrive in this economy, right? COVID is just another tidal wave of life lessons. There's going to be another recession in the next 5 to 8 years. I don't even know if we really hit the tip of this one, right? But recessions are kind of built into any economic model. So how are you going to survive? As if we've kind of noticed anything. It's not a political statement, it's just an observation. We've now transitioned between two different political parties under leadership, and it seems like we're struggling with both. I mean, how them, what's the refund checks, the recession checks, and COVID relief checks, how did that work out? It took them 9 months to send y'all $2,400 apart. So you can't pay the rent or the mortgage in hope or faith. Jesus may take the wheel, but you got to pay the car note every month. So how do we see ourselves, though? How do we mentally transition to adapt to this new environment that we're in? Like, we adapted differently when we were in Vietnam. We adapted differently in Afghanistan. We adapted differently in Iraq. The Operation Enduring Freedom and whatnot. Those are different enemies, different landscapes, and there were different strategies to combat these, to overcome and win, But what is the strategy for unemployment? Like, what is the plan versus just updating your resume? What is the plan? Like, what is your actual game plan? We're just going to fill out 100 applications, and the first one who hires us, that's what we run to. How are you mentally transitioning from a soldier to a business professional? It's a real question. So, again, to my base commanders as well, I ask you, Do you guys sit down with your troops on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, quarterly? Like, how are you ensuring that they will be successful after they transition from under your leadership? Do you check in with them a year after they've been out, or do you check in with them quarterly, monthly? Like, what are we doing to save their lives after they're done? Because when you're on the other side, I remember trying to go back to like Dobbins Air Force Base, and they're like, dude, you're not in the military anymore. You're not welcome here. You can go to the VA, 10 miles the other way, but you can't come here anymore. So I lost that resource. So how do we ensure that these people can stand up on their own too after they transition out? And I believe that starts and ends in the mindset upstairs. All right. So what are we doing? This is kind of your final marching orders, your homework, if you will, for the day, for the week. Again, to my base commanders, and if you're watching this and you have a base commander in your LinkedIn network, please send them to this comment their name below. This is the homework for them. What are you doing to ensure your people mentally transition out of the military and they know a little bit about business? Are they going to have a business in their name? Or are we guaranteeing them employment after they transition out? My thing is, even if they do have employment, what happens if they lose that employment through that recession? It's always going to be there. Do they know? Are we teaching these people how to fish? That's my question. Are we teaching people how to fish? Or are we giving them fish? All right. They need to know how to fish for the next 10, 15, 20 years. Because the reality is they're going to be out of the military longer than they will be in the military. So I just want to be cognizant. I want you to be cognizant as a base commander. I want you to be cognizant as a leader. I want you to be cognizant as a facilitator over these people. Like, you are responsible for them. I want to make sure that they understand that the biggest reason, if you kind of look back on the research, everybody who's, everyone who's thus transitioned out, and if you look at just the analytics, it doesn't lie. Like, unemployment is 1, 2, and 3 biggest issues. So what are you doing as a leader to ensure that your people will be successful after they transition from under your leadership? Because it's not just how they do when they're with you, it's how they do when they're no longer, when they're able to fly and swim on their own. All right. So how are we making sure that our people will mentally transition from a soldier's mindset to a business professional's mindset, so they can not just survive but thrive in the world of business that is the beautiful country, flawed as it is, of America? That was a strong 22 minutes. Man, I feel like I dropped 45 on y'all just now. All right. All right, y'all. So again, if you see anybody that you know in your network who's a base commander, actively in the military and just maybe getting ready to get out, who's already been out, please drop them a link, drop their name in the comments below, so I can kind of keep feeding them, keep teaching them, keep coaching them, keep training them, because it's my goal. I want to help 1 million people in the military, not just mentally transition from a soldier's mindset to a business professional's mindset, but I want to help 1 million people build a life plan and not just a resume, because civilians will teach you how to build a resume but not a life. Cool. All right, y'all. This is Ritchie Thomas, a soldier's coach, and I would tell you peace out, but the reality is most of y'all need peace in. Thank you.
That's